The proposition. Eliza Bennett clutched her worn portfolio case as she stepped into the gleaming lobby of Hayes Technologies. The receptionist's perfectly manicured finger pointed toward the private elevator. "Mr. Hayes is expecting you." This interview was a last resort. After 3 years of trying to make it as an independent artist in San Francisco, her bank account was as empty as her refrigerator. The personal assistant position paid well, even if it meant temporarily shelving her creative dreams. The elevator opened directly into a spacious penthouse office. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the bay. But what caught Eliza's attention was the man standing with his back to her, silhouetted against the foggy skyline. "You're exactly on time," Nolan Hayes said without turning around. "Rare quality these days." When he finally faced her, Eliza was struck by how different he looked in person compared to the few photos she'd found online. Younger, with intense gray eyes that seemed to analyze everything they landed on. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it. "Please sit," he gestured to a sleek chair across from his desk. Eliza sat, smoothing her second-hand skirt, conscious of the contrast between her thrift store outfit and his tailored suit. "Your resume is unconventional," he said, sliding it across the desk. "I know I don't have traditional experience, but I'm organized, quick to learn, and—" He raised his hand, cutting her off. "I didn't say that was a problem." The interview veered into unexpected territory. Instead of asking about her typing speed or scheduling abilities, Nolan questioned her about her paintings, her perspective on color theory, and how she'd approach designing a user interface. "This doesn't feel like an assistant interview," Eliza finally said. A smile flickered across his face. "That's because it isn't." Nolan stood and walked to the window. "I don't need an assistant, Miss Bennett. I need someone who sees the world differently than I do." "I don't understand." "I build technology, but lately I've been disconnected from the people who use it." He turned to face her. "Your portfolio caught my attention. Your art shows remarkable insight into human emotion." Eliza shifted uncomfortably. "So what exactly are you offering?" "A 3-month contract. You'll work directly with me as a prospective consultant. Your job will be to challenge my thinking, bring your artistic viewpoint to my logical one." "That's not a real job," she said, frowning. "It pays triple what the assistant position offered." Eliza's eyes widened. That kind of money would fund her art studio for a year. "What's the catch?" Nolan smiled more fully this time. "The catch is, you'll have to spend considerable time with me, and I'm told I'm difficult." "And if I say no?" "Then we part ways. No hard feelings." He handed her a business card with his personal number written on the back. "Think about it overnight. Call me tomorrow with your decision." As the elevator descended, Eliza stared at the card. The offer was bizarre, but something in Nolan's eyes had intrigued her, a loneliness that mirrored her own. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate. Eviction notice came today. 3 days. Eliza closed her eyes. She didn't need until tomorrow. She already knew her answer. Hesitant steps. "This is your workspace," Nolan said, gesturing to a sun-drenched corner of his office with views of the Golden Gate Bridge. An easel stood next to a designer desk outfitted with the latest technology. Eliza ran her fingertips over the pristine art supplies, more expensive than anything she'd ever owned. "You expect me to paint here?" "I expect you to be comfortable creating here," he replied. "Your perspective is valuable only if you're authentic." 2 weeks into their arrangement, Eliza still couldn't quite define her role. Some days, Nolan asked her opinion on product designs. Other days, he simply watched her paint, occasionally asking questions about her process. "Why yellow?" he asked one afternoon as she added bright strokes to a canvas. "Because it feels right," she answered without looking up. "That's not data-driven." "Not everything valuable can be quantified, Nolan." He fell silent, contemplating her words. These moments, when she challenged his analytical worldview, seemed to fascinate him most. Eliza's roommate Maya was skeptical of the arrangement. "So you just, what? Hang out with this billionaire and tell him what colors you like?" "It's more than that," Eliza explained over cheap wine in their soon-to-be former apartment. "He's brilliant but isolated. He builds technology without understanding the humans who use it. And you're humanizing him. For a paycheck? Eliza frowned. You make it sound mercenary. Just be careful. Men like that are used to buying what they want. But Nolan never crossed professional boundaries. If anything, he maintained careful distance, despite the growing electricity between them that Eliza tried desperately to ignore. The turning point came during a product demonstration. Nolan's team presented a health monitoring app, and everyone nodded approvingly at the sleek interface. It's wrong, Eliza said quietly. The room fell silent. Nolan turned to her, eyebrow raised. Explain. The whole design is clinical, cold, but health is deeply personal, emotional. People need warmth, encouragement. She took the tablet, quickly sketching alternatives. Like this. Later, alone in his office, Nolan studied her drawings. You completely reframed the problem. I just saw it differently. That's exactly why you're here. His eyes met hers with unexpected intensity. You see what I miss? For the first time, Eliza recognized the vulnerability beneath his controlled exterior, a man aware of his blind spots, humble enough to seek help. Something shifted between them, a deeper understanding taking root. That night, she couldn't sleep, her mind replaying the moment his fingers had briefly touched hers over the tablet. She was falling for him, despite every rational argument against it. The professional boundaries she'd carefully maintained were beginning to blur, and the thought both terrified and thrilled her. Walls crumbling. You've never been to an art gallery opening? Eliza asked, incredulous. Nolan shrugged, looking uncomfortable in the crowded space despite his perfectly tailored casual attire. I've purchased art, but always through advisors. That's like buying books you never read. She tugged him toward a vibrant, abstract piece. What do you feel when you look at this? Feel? He analyzed the painting with the same intensity he applied to code. It's technically impressive. The composition, not what you think. What you feel? His expression shifted, becoming less guarded. Chaotic, but not unpleasantly so. Like standing in a storm but knowing you're safe, Eliza smiled. Now you're getting it. The evening marked a turning point. Outside the confines of his corporate world, Nolan relaxed. They wandered the Mission District afterward, sharing street tacos and conversation that veered from technology to philosophy to their childhoods. His privileged but lonely, hers financially struggling but rich with love. My parents wanted me to be practical, she admitted as they walked along the waterfront. Art school was my rebellion. My parents expected excellence, he replied. Anything less was failure. Is that why you work 18-hour days? His step faltered. You've been paying attention. It's my job to notice things, she said softly. Their eyes met, and for a suspended moment, Eliza thought he might kiss her. Instead, he looked away, maintaining the invisible line between them. Back at the office, their dynamic had subtly changed. Nolan began including her in executive meetings, valuing her input beyond aesthetics. The company's upcoming product launch reflected her influence. More intuitive, human-centered, Eliza found her own creative work evolving too. Her paintings grew bolder, infused with new energy. One evening, Nolan discovered her working late, completely absorbed in a large canvas. This is different, he observed, studying the powerful brushstrokes. Good different, or bad different? Just more. His voice dropped. More you. Something in his tone made her turn. He stood closer than usual, the careful distance he maintained finally narrowing. Eliza. The way he said her name felt like a confession. This arrangement between us is complicated, she finished. Yes. His hand hesitantly rose to her cheek. But perhaps not as complicated as we've made it. When his lips finally met hers, the contact was gentle, questioning. Eliza responded with the certainty they both needed, drawing him closer, feeling the restraint in him finally break. They pulled apart, breathless. The line irrevocably crossed. We shouldn't, she whispered, even as her body contradicted her words. I know. His forehead rested against hers. But I've been falling for you since you told me my entire approach to design was wrong. She laughed softly. That's a strange thing to find attractive. Your honesty is rare in my world. His fingers traced her jawline. Everyone else tells me what they think I want to hear. As his lips found hers again, more urgently this time, Eliza knew they were venturing into dangerous territory, but she couldn't bring herself to care. The retreat, the mountain cabin, wasn't what Eliza had expected. Instead of the ultra-modern glass structure she'd imagined, Nolan's private retreat was a renovated timber lodge, rustic but comfortable, nestled among towering pines. "This belonged to my grandfather," Nolan explained, carrying their bags inside. "The only place I truly relax? It's beautiful." Eliza wandered to the window, taking in the panoramic lake view. The weekend trip had been framed as a working retreat, finalizing concepts for the product launch. But they both recognized it as something more significant. A comfortable silence settled between them as Nolan built a fire. The past weeks had transformed their relationship. Professional boundaries giving way to stolen kisses in his office, late-night conversations, and an undeniable connection that went beyond physical attraction. "You're different here," she observed as evening fell, watching him move more freely, his perpetual tension easing. "This is the only place where I'm not Nolan Hayes. CEO!" He handed her a glass of wine. "Just Nolan. I like just Nolan." Their eyes met across the flickering firelight, and the last pretense of professional distance dissolved. His kiss was hungry, unrestrained, lifting her effortlessly onto the kitchen counter. Eliza wrapped herself around him, surrendering to the desire they'd both fought against. "Are you sure?" he whispered against her neck. "I've never been more sure of anything." They moved to the bedroom, where urgency gave way to tender exploration. Nolan's controlled exterior completely vanished as they discovered each other. In the aftermath, tangled in sheets and moonlight, Eliza felt a contentment she'd never known. "I've wanted this since that first day in my office," he admitted, tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. "Even when I challenged everything you said?" "Especially then," his smile faded. "I've built walls my entire life. You saw through them immediately." Morning brought fresh coffee and shared confidences on the deck overlooking the lake. The professional pretense had evaporated completely, leaving something raw and honest in its place. While Nolan prepared lunch, Eliza explored the cabin, drawn to his grandfather's study. Photographs covered one wall, a younger Nolan with an elderly man, fishing, hiking, laughing. Beneath them sat a worn desk with an open laptop. She didn't mean to look, but a document caught her eye. A draft contract with her name. Scanning it quickly, her blood turned cold. Phrases jumped out. Exclusive rights to all creative output, non-disclosure agreement, intellectual property transfer. When Nolan called her name, she slammed the laptop shut, mind racing. Had everything, their connection, the intimacy they'd shared, been orchestrated to secure her creative vision for his company? Was she just another acquisition? Through lunch, she remained distant, replaying every interaction through this new lens. Had she misread everything? "What's wrong?" he finally asked, reaching for her hand. She pulled away. "I need to go back to the city." "Eliza, I saw the contract, Nolan." Her voice trembled. "Was that the plan all along? Get close to me so I'd sign away my creativity?" His face went pale. "That's not, just take me home." She stood, already rebuilding the walls he'd so carefully dismantled. "I thought you were different." Part 5. True Intentions. 3 days of silence felt like an eternity. Eliza threw herself into packing her apartment, ignoring Maya's concerned glances and the constant buzz of her phone as Nolan tried to reach her. "You should at least hear him out," Maya suggested, watching Eliza aggressively tape another box. "Why? So he can explain how he engineered our entire relationship to get my designs? Is that really what you believe?" The question lingered as Eliza worked through the night on a new painting, dark, turbulent strokes reflecting her inner turmoil. By morning, exhausted and paint-splattered, she'd reached a decision. She would hear him out, if only for closure. She found him in his office before dawn, disheveled and unshaven, surrounded by papers. "5 minutes," she said from the doorway. Nolan looked up, relief washing over his tired features. The contract you saw was drafted by legal, not me. I never intended for you to sign it. Then why did it exist? Because I was afraid. He ran a hand through his hair. Not of losing your ideas, of losing you. He pulled a different document from his desk. This is what I was planning to offer you. Eliza cautiously accepted it. Not a contract, but a business proposal. A new creative division with her as director. Complete autonomy, ownership of her work. I don't understand. My grandfather built this company on innovation, but warned me that success would bring isolation. Nolan's voice softened. He was right. I surrounded myself with people who thought exactly like me until you walked in and shattered that echo chamber. He moved closer. The contract you saw was legal's response when I told them I wanted to create a position for you. I rejected it immediately. That's why it was on my laptop. I was drafting a counter-proposal. Why didn't you tell me any of this? Because somewhere along the way it stopped being about business. His vulnerability was palpable. I fell in love with you, Eliza. Not your creativity, not what you could do for my company. You. The admission hung between them, raw and honest. I've spent my life building technology, he continued. But you showed me that without human connection, it's meaningless. You changed everything. Eliza studied him, the earnest eyes, the tension in his shoulders, and recognized the truth. He wasn't the calculating businessman she'd feared, but a man navigating unfamiliar emotional territory as best he could. I'm still angry, she said finally, but I believe you. Relief flooded his features. I never meant to hurt you. I know. She took a tentative step forward. But whatever happens between us, I need to know it's real, not arranged, not calculated. Nolan closed the remaining distance, taking her hands. The only arrangement I want is building something together, professionally and personally. No contracts, no conditions. That sounds terrifying, she admitted. Most worthwhile things are. His smile was tentative. My grandfather also told me that true innovation requires courage. I think the same applies to love. As the sun rose over the city, painting the sky in the vibrant colors Eliza so often captured on canvas, she made her choice. Rising to her tiptoes, she kissed him, not with the passion of their weekend retreat, but with something deeper, more enduring. Sometimes the most unexpected arrangements became the most perfect.